Hello there, and welcome once more to the Septic Shock road trip with my partner in YouTube videoing crime, Ron Scott. Hello, Ron.
Hey, Clive, and nice to see you, Clive. How are you?
I'm all right. I am Clive Davis, and we are currently parked up in Rhode Island.
Yeah, here we are, Rhode Island. Oh,
We've set
the smallest state, I believe.
Is that right?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. We've set up our set here to look as if it's our rooms back at home. But we are, in fact, in a parking lot in Rhode Island. We did drive over from, where were we? Cape Cod.
Massachusetts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we continue our adventures one state at a time, one or a handful of horror films at a time, to paint a picture of the golden age state-by-state horror landscape of the United States, I guess. And we started off in Maine, which was more problematic than we expected, right? Because we figured Maine, the home of Stephen King, there'll be a wealth of stuff to choose from.
Right. Yeah.
And there was
not so much.
No,
yeah.
Which is why we did Pet Sematary. And once again, I was convinced, Rhode Island, I thought the home of, H.P. Lovecraft, one of my very, are you a H.P. Lovecraft reader?
I am. I got into a period for a while where I read a bunch. And then I sort of dropped off, and I was intended in going back because I had other stuff that kind of piled up in front of it. So, but
right.
I haven't read everything, right? But
right. But you get the Lovecraft thing.
Right. And interesting that I had no idea that I apparently famously a huge bigot.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Yeah. That apparently like the old ones and the deep, like the really like the deep horror are all based on Jews, I guess, right? Is that true?
I mean, I think not overt. I mean, he does mention things like, swarthy foreigners and stuff like that from time to time. But I think it's not overt. But yes, apparently in his personal life, and if you read like letters and correspondence and stuff like that, yeah, he was a very
right. Yeah. So I always feel kind of like like he's like a good writer and of course very famous, and so I always feel like, are you allowed to write? Hasn't been cancelled yet. So
yeah, I think in his case, it's at least from my point of view, it's easier to separate the work from the man, just because whatever was fueling his particular fear and hatred and stuff, I think it just manifests itself as fear and paranoia in the books, which is you can take that for your own, right, and attach it to whatever. Right. And he is a phenomenon. I mean, I think I've read everything twice, and quite keen to do so again. Like not a problem.
Yeah, it was. I read just recently, I guess a couple of days ago, that unfortunately, I guess Guillermo del Toro's In the Mountains of Madness version has been sort of tanked, apparently.
Yeah, well, he's been at that for a long time, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. So that would have been a good one, I think.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen him do that, because that's one of my favorite Lovecraft stories as well. Kind of cribbed a little bit from an earlier Edgar Allan Poe story as well.
Right.
Speaking of Guillermo del Toro, his new one is Nightmare Alley, which is a remake of a film from the 40s, which is based on a novel, like a Carney novel, and both the novel and the 1940s film are quite excellent. So I'm kind of keen to see what he's done with it.
Okay, I'll have to look that up.
I don't know when it's coming out, but I know it's it's coming out soon, or he's finished it. So
with Bradley Cooper and Kate Blanchett.
Yeah, so I'm kind of keen to see what he did with that, because like I said, I'm a big fan of the book, and the earlier film is very good. Yeah, so So yeah, Rhode Island and Providence particularly, I thought, here we go. There's, it's going to be, we might have to do 2 or 3 films. There'll be plenty to choose from. But no, fuck all, really. In terms of
nothing.
production, sweet FA. So again, slightly compromised. We chose something that, we normally probably would have skimmed over, but hey-ho, hoist by our own petard once again. So we're doing the 1982 TV movie, NBC TV movie, The Demon Murder Case, which I had not seen before. Had you, Ron?
No, of course, no, definitely not. Yes.
And so this one is, there's a connection to our other podcast that we do, The Magic Morning Wood. Check it out. It's almost as amazing as this, except you can't see how good we are.
You can only hear us.
Yeah.
Well, so the connection, of course, is we did an episode on the Conjuring 3, or not 3. You're not allowed to use the 3 because it's with the Conjuring first. I guess they've had some many other offshoots that it wasn't part 3 anymore. But it was called Conjuring: The Devil Made Me Do It, which was just a recent release, just last year, I guess. Or this year? Is it this year?
This year, I think.
This year. Okay. And so we did an episode about that movie and about the Conjuring verse in general. And surprise, surprise, it's about the same case, I guess, right? So
so originally this happened actually not in Rhode Island, it was in Brookfield, Connecticut.
Right.
And so it was basically a case of someone had killed someone else. I think it was the first time that they tried to get away with a plea of a kind of insanity because of demonic possession, right? That was basically and of course it was thrown out of court.
Yes, and he was still guilty, right? So so it's big. I mean, essentially the same plot line as The Conjuring: The Devil Made Me Do It,
right?
Or at least it's about the same case anyway. The details are a little different, and then of course the Conjuring sort of highlights the Warrens as the our demon fighting heroes, whereas this one the Warrens, those 2 characters make an appearance, but they're the Harrises in this one, I guess, right? So
Conjuring, the Conjuring took the idea and then realized, there's not actually that much to this story, so let's just make up a whole bunch of other shit that's got nothing to do with the story. And,
which was it's just a mess by the end. Then there was a priest with his having sex with a daughter. I don't know what was going on. It's like it went way off the rails by the end. But so
this is a slightly more boiled down version of specifically that story, and I think it's proof that there isn't really that much there, right? Because this kind of flounders a bit as well, doesn't it? And of course it's also limited by the restrictions of being on NBC, I guess, on television, right? So it's often, it's sort of like really wants to be The Exorcist, but it can't do anything interesting because it's on primetime television, right? So Dick Clark was an executive producer on it. Directed by William Hale, written by William Kelly. Not names that jumped out at me. So very, very big.
But of course, you don't be remiss to mention the fact that it's a star-studded who's who of 80s actors, which was starring the Kevin Bacon. I didn't even realize that he was in this movie. So in one of his first roles, this would have been just before Footloose, I think, right? So
he
would have been in Diner, I guess, right before that. But
the same year, and Friday the 13th, a couple of years before.
Right.
But a connection again to another show that I do with Nick, the Film Crack YouTube show. We did a very interesting, very different, definitely wouldn't have been broadcast on NBC film called 40 Deuce, about hustlers in New York City, with Kevin Bacon on the cast, based on a play, an off-Broadway play that he was in as well. the same year as this, and it's kind of interesting to see, you know, Kevin Bacon in this, and then around the same time, you know, every other word out of his mouth is something about cocksucking. But he is. I've always liked Kevin Bacon, actually, and I think
he's always
versatile as well. And
he is. Yeah.
in fact, the director of that film, 40 Deuce, Paul Morrissey, I remember reading an interview with him, and it was the first time, because I think Kevin Bacon's so good, actually, in a way, you almost take him for granted, right? I think. And he pointed out in his interview, he was saying, you know, that Kevin Bacon kid, he's fucking good. Like, he can do almost anything, but he does it so seamlessly and in a non-showy way.
Right.
That because everyone kind of likes Kevin Bacon. No one dislikes Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, there's no one that says, "Oh, fuck that Kevin Bacon." You know, it's like Kevin Bacon, right? So,
but he can lead Footloose. You know, he can be a bad guy. He can be that racist and JF. He can pretty much do anything and do it very well and convincingly, but not in a. He doesn't have that kind of a force of gravity, self-conscious Marlon Brando thing going on.
Right. Yeah, he doesn't take himself too seriously.
Oh.
He just does the work. He comes in, he does it well, you know, and he's reliable. He does it good, right? So
I've always been quite impressed by Kevin Bacon, and again in this, I mean, he's fine. I mean, he's not, you know, he's not like the loose link or anything that, you know, it's just the material is kind of boring.
Yeah, it's very thin, you know. But so I mean, other stars to be found within this cast. Cloris Leachman shows up as a reporter, trying to find the scoop on the case, and then of course, Andy Griffith, who was who sort of played the Warren character, the demon hunter character, the Patrick what was his name? Patrick Wilson character, basically the version of him, and so doing his Matlock thing, but with demon hunting.
I mean, to be honest, Andy Griffith is one of those names. Like, I know who he is, but he wasn't part of my childhood growing up. But I know for you, for example, he's like wallpaper, right? Like he would.
I mean, like the. You know, I immediately I saw him. I was like, "Oh!" I just started whistling the Andy. You don't know that one? That's the Andy Griffith show theme. Yeah.
Either it was never on, or it wasn't on when I was a kid, or I just didn't see it. Or I know, you know, I know who he is. I know the idea, but no, I don't really know him. He's not that familiar a face. And you got Beverly McKinsey.
In Two Americans, everyone knows him, so that's all.
Beverly McKinsey is the other half of the Harrises here, right? Not the Warrens.
Right, yeah. And also, I was also happy to see Richard Mazer, who's I think he's a really great like a real stolid character actor. He shows up, he's always really like reliable.
Right.
Stuff. He plays the lawyer, right?
Yeah, the one that jumped out at me, because he's more of a movie face, so I know him, was Eddie Albert as the priest who does the exorcism. Joyce Van Patten of the Von Pattens, I guess, is the mother.
Right.
And the voice of Harvey Fierstein. Is it Fierstein?
Yes, and that was the last one I was going to mention. Yeah, so in his very first movie role, the voice of Harvey Fierstein. Yeah, so
is it Fierstein? Is it?
But I've always heard it Fierstein, but
okay.
But I could be wrong. So, but so I remember looking at the cast list. I'd already been like halfway through, and I looked at the cast list. I was like, Harvey Fierstein's in this movie. I was like, oh, he's the voice of the demon. I was like, oh. Right. That tracks. So he kind of has like a kind of voice, right? So that's his, and he's very famous for that voice now, but like in different ways, right? So, but
right. So the basic story is, there's a little boy. There's a kind of an extended family, and Kevin Bacon and his quite hot redhead girlfriend are going to move out together to a new house, I think, right? And they've been
played by Leanne Langland.
I didn't know her.
Yeah, I'd never seen her. Yeah, she didn't do too much, I think, after that.
But I was thinking,
Yeah.
there's Ron's type.
Yeah.
Okay.
She was okay.
So yeah, and I guess they're going to move out, and they've been over looking at the house, and then while they were there, the brother, the little boy played by Charlie Fields, claims that like a beast has followed them back to the house, right? Some kind of demon or something, and then he seems to be possessed by something, and they can't decide, is he just being a naughty little boy, or is he actually possessed by something more serious? And then they get the demonologist, the Harrises in, and various priests and stuff, and then Kevin Bacon's character calls the, come and get me, calls the demon into him, right, to get him out of the little boy. And then there's all this stuff with he's jealous because his girlfriend's boss and like the landlord is kind of hitting on her in a very roundabout, kind of weird, strange way with his bizarre Australian accent. I was wondering how much of that
you can't jump over the best scene in the movie where he tries to seduce her by playing Waltzing Matilda.
Yes, at top volume. While it's just, I was wondering about that. I was wondering, that's going to be based on the court transcripts, right? Because no sane person would write that as a.
My impression was, Waltzing Matilda. I think is Waltzing Matilda and it's Australian song.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah. My guess was that I don't think it was based on a correct transcript. My guess was that it was the only recognizable Australian song that they could get rights to.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. It's such a strange, like, it's just a strange way of going around trying to get in someone's pants, right? But,
yes. And it was like, of all the songs, like, it's the unsexiest song in the world, right? It's like, he's like, I love think Matilda. And I was like, is this how you're gonna, is this your game, man? This guy's got no game.
And his accent, no, certainly not. And his accent kind of comes and goes.
Yeah.
And anyway, so it's all very peculiar, but basically he does get on Kevin Bacon's nerves, as he does ours, and Kevin Bacon does kill him. And so then when it comes time to the defense is, as they say in the Conjuring verse, the devil made me do it, right?
Right.
And the judge basically goes, spoilers, no, he didn't. You're going to prison for 10 years.
You're going to jail.
Good. I mean, I'm so pleased that that's actually, in a way, even though it doesn't make for an exciting film, I'm kind of glad that sanity prevailed, and it's not even prolonged, right, in this film.
Yeah.
I thought there'd be more of that, like they ramped up for tension, but no, it's just no, fuck off, go to prison. That's it.
And the whole thing is called the Demon Murder Case. So I thought there was gonna be a lot more kind of like courtroom stuff. It was like it's like courtroom drama, but it wasn't. There was like almost nothing. And it's just like same in the Conjuring one. There was like almost no. It's like the courtroom is really just like an afterthought. Like no, it wasn't. So.
In fact, the framing is so much like the Conjuring, where they bring it up at the beginning and then it's an extended flashback and then back to the court case. I was wondering if even, James Wan had seen this on late night TV or something when he was a kid, and it stuck with him, and then he, just pretty much just copied the structure.
Copied it, and then added some other shit.
Which I can see why he did, because obviously it's difficult to make a movie out of it.
Yeah, there's not much of it. And at least James Wan tried with like the. I remember there was the scene.
Director, but he's the overall.
Yeah. He's the Conjuring master, right? Whatever. But the whoever did the part 3, they tried with. I remember there's one scene where they tried with the they tried to convince the lawyer. In that case, it was a female lawyer, and they're like, "Well, come over our house and we'll show you some of our stuff that we've done." And she's like, I don't believe any of this. And then they cuts the next morning. She's like, we're gonna claim it's demon possession, right? Like it was kind of supposed to be kind of a joke, whatever. But it was supposed to show that even this cynical lawyer, they've kind of brought around to convincing her. But this one, there was none of that. Like I don't think the lawyer even bought it himself.
Right,
He was just like, okay, this is what we're doing, but it's not working.
There's a brief glimpse when we're over at the Harris's house as well, as they do have the same kind of setup that they do in the Conjuring films, right? You see some like glass cases with little things in them. You have a brief glimpse of that. And at the very end of this film, there's like an added coda where they try and convince you that no, he shouldn't have gone to prison. There's actually, the little boy is still possessed by something, or there's like a scene where something a bit spooky, but it's actually just something falling off a shelf.
Yeah.
But they kind of try and make you, ooh, hang on now, is it, isn't it? Yeah. And everyone just thinks, no, it's not.
No, it's just something filled out.
Which is why I don't necessarily have a problem with, because I don't believe, right? So I don't expect to be suckered in. But it's not, I have to admit, it wasn't a difficult watch. Like the 90 minutes or whatever did kind of roll by. I was looking at my watch, and like you said, it's kind of distracting to have these kind of him, her. And but it's quite bland, and like you said, very TV movie, and not scary. And
no, not even. I guess the closest to being quote unquote scary would be when the kid is talking in Harvey Fierstein's voice, which is I think for some people. I talked with my mother a little bit. My mother has always told me that she is has been like permanently changed by her from watching The Exorcist when she was younger. So she said like she doesn't do well with demon possession and all like the speaking in tongues and other voices, and that she really freaks her out. So I get the impression that probably in '83, which is sort of like just coming off of the The Exorcist, like around that time, and people turn on the and you see a kid talking like this, like Harvey Fierstein. Probably would be a little bit like, whoa, people would be like, whoa, probably at home. I get the impression it was, or as close as you could get to that on primetime television. Right? So.
The Exorcist is a very different. That's you're talking.
Yeah, of course it is. I'm not. Other than being exorcisms, there's nothing much close, nothing similar to it. But it's but definitely like the kid speaking with someone else's voice. Right. That in itself, my mother says, is something that she even freaks her out, no matter how terrible it's done, right? So
it's definitely,
it still gets some people, I guess. So
maybe so, yeah. I suppose it doesn't help if you know in advance it's Harvey Fierstein as well, right? Because as soon as I heard the voice, it's Harvey Fierstein,
I didn't get that at first. I just thought it was sort of like a real kind of modulated voice, but then about halfway through. I saw the cast list and I was like, okay, that was Harvey Fierstein. Okay, I guess, yeah. I think it would have made me laugh more if I had.
Because of the few films I've seen him in, it was less he's possessed by the devil. It's he's possessed by a New York City fashion designer, or one of those friendly gay characters that Harvey Fierstein plays in several films.
Why? What are you wearing? Take that off. Exactly. Travesty. You can't match spots and stripes.
You would wear that in hell. Yeah. So plus as well, those scenes are a little bit strange as well. Like it seemed as if they didn't quite know how do we make this scary, and they just seem to rely on close-ups and maybe a bit of a fisheye lens effect and a wind machine. And
always a wind machine. I was like, where's the wind coming from?
So it was kind of an odd way to have. And I looked at the director. And mostly TV work, right? Which is not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes you do have to come up with stuff even for the small screen, right? But yeah, it very much feels kind of a little bit threadbare, and like people who didn't quite know how to do this, right? How do we do that?
And certainly, it one thing that kind of struck me was that it definitely, you think a movie like this, it would or at least if I was approaching a case or a story like this, I would want to approach it like a. Do you think he really was possessed? You make it ambiguous to some degree. That these people thought this, but it actually might not have been this, like make your own decisions kind of thing. But it was very clear, like, oh, look, the kid is flying out the door, so therefore he was possessed. So he shouldn't have been gone to jail because there was a possession. It was a little too like heavy-handed one side, you know what I mean? Like,
yes. And if you are gonna go that one-sided, then like you said, then you go the Exorcist route and pull out all the stops. But they didn't.
Right, exactly.
They kind of didn't do that either. So it kind of falls between these two stools, right?
Right. It was just like a kid who speaks in a strange voice and can fly out the door, and then Kevin Bacon kills someone. Like even Kevin Bacon didn't even have any like demonic kind of things. Right. So it was just he brought it into him and then killed somebody. Yeah, I mean, like, and killed the guy who he was jealous about, who was hitting on his girlfriend. So I mean, with motive and everything. So I mean, it's just there's no. If they made Kevin Bacon, fly or some shit, I mean, it might have been a little bit more interesting or whatever. But it was
or like you said, not have so overtly supernatural things happen. So you kind of got more of a sense of Kevin Bacon's character hijacking that notion, and because I suppose it's all about like mass hysteria or something on a certain level, right? And it is difficult to get that right on film. There's a few films that do it quite well. There's like that film The Falling from a few years ago, where girls at a boarding school go into these kind of sudden fits of like fainting and dancing and dying, and no one quite knows why, and that's played quite well and ambiguously, and you don't know whether these girls are just copying each other or not, and but
it's like the Crucible. It's basically the Crucible, right?
Right.
Yeah, the Crucible, or they did that also in the Witch, the Vivitch.
Yes.
Right, yeah, that kind of stuff, right? So
no, that's another good example actually, where they played a bit more with the ambiguity, and you weren't quite sure.
Yeah.
And in a way, that's
at the end. At the end, it was not too ambiguous. At the end of that movie,
well, I think you could still argue that it might be in someone's head, but again, that's a good example. Though, is they managed to play with the ambiguity, but also deliver scares.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was a little curious about, because I mean, I was 6 when this came out, or 5 or 6 years old. So obviously, I was not watching this type of thing on television at that time, and certainly they don't really have now we have streaming, so they don't really have TV movies anymore, and there's certainly it's a different animal now, right, to produce things for television. But I was like, were there a lot of like horror movies being made for television, like
yes.
Were there? And but I mean, in the 70s and 80s. But they couldn't have, none of them could have been that scary, because there's not much you can do that I mean, because a kid can just turn on the television.
I know some of them. I mean, that's the thing, right? Is there's a whole generation of people who are freaked out by certain TV movies. Some of them are really well done, and they gave kids nightmares. We were speaking Guillermo del Toro earlier. He remade one, right? That one, what's it? I forgot what it was called now. Is it Don't Open the Door, Don't Do Something.
Don't do something.
Dark, don't turn out the light. Don't do that. Don't eat that. It's bad for you. Something. Don't do something. He remade it, right? And that was very much his memories of a 70s TV movie that and there's a bunch of them, things like Gargoyles and Bad Ronald, and there's a whole I'm sure you could go and find message boards online with people sharing their memory and wanting to know, what was that film, what was that film? I saw it when I was a kid. It freaked me out. I don't remember anything except there was a goblin and a flying sock, and someone took a shit outside and got killed by a giant spider, and they're half remembering it and mixing it up with another film. And
Did you ever have something like that when you were a kid?
Yeah, they used to show, when I was a kid, there was a strand on ITV. It was called Murder, Mystery, Suspense. When I was a kid, I didn't realize this, but now in retrospect, looking back, what they did was they imported, I think mostly TV movies, American TV movies, which were a few years old at that point, and then showed them in this murder mystery suspense slot.
Right.
Yeah, so there were things I remember seeing when I was a kid. There was one, I can't remember what this is. I did find out what it was, but not a horror film, but it was a science fiction film that freaked me out a little bit. And it was about, I can't even remember what it was about now. There were these TV movies on, the images stuck with me, you know. So, yeah, so I think the small screen doesn't necessarily have to, I think this is just not a very good example.
Right. Well, okay. Right. Yeah. So, well, I mean, because the only thing that my memory of that, the only thing that I got freaked out by was Doctor Who. I remember being at my grandmother's house and being freaked out by some alien on Doctor Who. I remember they looked like big shits, big turds.
Oh, maybe the Zygons. Did they control the Loch Ness monster?
Well, I don't remember any details. I just remember that there was like big brown shitty people, and I was hiding behind the couch from these big shits. That sounds
like the Zygons. That's interesting to me as well, though. That I'm wondering, did Doctor Who get more play in Canada than it did in the United States? Because
I never watched Doctor Who at all in Canada, and I only started watching Doctor Who a few years ago myself here. But my grandmother was Scottish, and so she used to watch it. I think maybe because from her.
I'm guessing it probably was on to a certain degree on some PBS channel or something. It's just people didn't watch it for whatever reason. It wasn't
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure how popular it was, but I know my grandmother watched it because it was her culture. So
right. Well, there you go. That the Zygons would have had the Loch Ness monster as well, so the connection even stronger.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah.
If I remember correctly, it swam up the Thames, I think.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So, Demon Murder Case.
It's worth mentioning that it was terrible quality. Like I'd say 30% of the movie I couldn't even understand what they were saying because there was just like
right.
Yeah, and
so we watched this on it's on YouTube if you're interested.
But yeah, it's very, I mean, it looks like somebody had like set up a video camera and had played it on their television. I'm not sure where they got this version of it from, but
right. It looked like it might have been from old VHS release of it or something like that.
Right.
Some of these things did get VHS releases during video boom, right, when everything came out. So yeah, the German poster I quite like. There's a German poster online, and it's what's the kid's name? And it's the kid's name. It's like Harry or Henry or whatever the kid's name is in there. And it's got him like breathing fire on the poster. Looks like a much more exciting film. The German poster for this looks quite exciting, but you would be just disappointed when you actually
see it. Yeah. So yeah.
So there we go. That's Rhode Island done. Less exciting going on in that state than we would have thought, but. Yeah, so I think our next destination is Connecticut.
Oh.
Yeah, so we're heading there yet. I haven't chosen...
Which is actually where this case should have been, right? So.
Right. So I haven't chosen the film or films yet, but we'll get there and we'll see if we might get a Connecticut resident on to discuss it with us. I haven't chosen, so you don't have to pretend to dance. You'll be pleased to hear Ron, but as always, we're not just the horror movie state by state podcast. We're also the garage rock state by state YouTube video. So we'll bid you farewell for now, and you will now hear some 60s garage punk from the 1960s and Rhode Island. So the details will be on your screen. So until next time,
I'm Ron.
And I'm not.
It's you. Get out of here. Here we come.
She left me and I was alone. She left me all someone who will always help me try, someone who will never make me cry, 'cause I